on. Hey. It's about that time.
We know what we want to do. It's another opportunity for us to get better.
How you compete. That means how hard you play, how tough you play, how you can sustain in tough circumstances.
We're the best in the world, baby. Do it like you love it. We under the lights tonight, baby.
Sirs.
1, 2, 3. Beautiful. Rip it now. Rip it, son.
Sirs.
Go get it.
It's here. Football is back, Maggie.
It finally is the key word
Yes.
there. The Tide has returned to the practice field as they prepare for their season opener against Duke next weekend.
I can't wait, Maggie. Welcome to a new season of TideTV this week, brought to you by Renaissance Bank. I'm Christopher England, filling in for Chris Stewart, along with Maggie Hetzel. Chris is out for a few weeks, recovering from surgery.
Chris did have heart bypass surgery last Monday, and I am happy to report everything went according to plan. He's back at home, recuperating, resting comfortably, studying up on football, I bet.
Yes, he is. Chris will be back with us in a couple of weeks, so get well, Chris. We can't wait to have you back with us very soon.
And he'll be back just in time for the start of football season. And looking ahead to this year's schedule, Crimson Tide open the season in Atlanta next Saturday against the Duke Blue Devils.
In Southeastern Conference play, the Tide will host Ole Miss, Tennessee, Arkansas, and LSU, while traveling to South Carolina, Texas A&M, Mississippi State, and Auburn.
The Crimson Tide also hosts 3 non-conference games at Bryant-Denny Stadium, including New Mexico State, Southern Miss, and Western Carolina.
The SEC Championship game will take place where the Tide opens the season at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. That game will take place on Saturday, December 7th, so we know who the Tide is playing, but where are they all ranked as we start the season?
The Associated Press and the coaches polls, they are out for the first time, and for the first time since 2015. The Crimson Tide, they're not number 1 to begin the season. Clemson takes that top spot with Alabama ranked second, earning 10 first-place votes. This marks the 11th consecutive season Alabama has begun the season inside the top 10.
During that time, Coach Saban and the Crimson Tide have won an impressive 5 national championships. Rounding out the top 5 are Georgia, Oklahoma, and Ohio State.
Other SEC teams are in the AP top 25, as you could expect, include LSU at 6, Florida at 8. The Tide's opponent on October 12th, Texas A&M, is 12th, and Auburn comes in at number 16. Over in the coaches poll, the top 5 is the same as the AP.
LSU is 6th, Florida 8th, Texas A&M is at 11, with the Auburn Tigers at number 16. Now, Alabama has been number 2 to start the season 9 times, tying Oklahoma for the most in AP poll history. Now, don't get too worked up about the Tide not starting the season number 1. Just as many teams have started number 2 and won the national championship as number 1. That's been accomplished 11 times by both the number 1 and number 2 teams.
And you don't want to miss this. Coming up next, we're going to head out to the lake with Coach Saban and the freshmen.
Welcome back. Now that we've talked about this season, let's take a look at next season.
The 2020 schedule, it was recently released, and the Tide will begin the season in a familiar place, not Atlanta, but it will be in Arlington, the home of the Dallas Cowboys, against the University of Southern California.
It will be the 8th consecutive year Alabama has opened the season with a neutral site game, with the Tide holding a perfect 7-0 mark in those contests. Alabama then begins a 3-game stretch at home, first with Georgia State, before SEC play starts with a matchup against Georgia in Week 3. The last of the 3-game homestand will be against Coach Saban's alma mater, Kent State.
That'll be a good one. The Tide then plays 4 out of their next 5 games on the road, with trips to Ole Miss and Arkansas before returning to Bryant-Denny to host the Mississippi State Bulldogs on October 17th. The Tide will then host Tennessee, and then with their annual bye week right before the big matchup with LSU in Baton Rouge on November 7th.
After the matchup against LSU, the Crimson Tide will wrap up the regular season with 3 consecutive home games. Alabama will take on UT Martin on November 14th and then close with 2 SEC matchups. Texas A&M comes to Tuscaloosa on November the 21st, and the Iron Bowl will take place on the 28th.
And then the SEC Championships will take place in Atlanta on December 5th. I'm ready for the season to start, but I have to say that 2020 schedule is incredible, and I'm excited for that one too.
It is, Maggie. Opening the season against USC and then Georgia 2 weeks later, several other big SEC matchups, and then closing the season at home against Texas A&M and Auburn. I'm excited. It should be a great season.
Yeah, but this season, that's what we're talking about. And a new season means what? New players to follow and get to know. And one of Coach Saban's favorite things to do is take them out on the lake for a little fun before camp starts and toss them off the tubes.
Yes, I think Coach Saban gets a big kick out of throwing the freshmen off the inner tubes and seeing their reactions. But, you know, it's good to see him laugh and have fun with the new guys. Let's go all access with Coach Saban and the new members of the Crimson Tide. It's brought to you by ATI.
I'm just sliding across the top of the water. Man, I'm tired of it. I want to take the life jacket off.
Yeah, you did.
Terrific.
Yeah.
I was on the jet ski, man. Who was better? Who was like that on the jet ski? Y'all saw me doing the dash.
I wasn't like that on the jet ski. You didn't see me on the jet ski now.
Y'all saw me doing the dash.
Photo shoot day.
We set the bar high. On top, cause we so fly. Name in the bright lights. Looking like a star shine. We set the bar high. On top, cause we so fly. Name in the bright lights. Looking like a star shine. Let's keep it a century, so elementary. Y'all know who I am when they mention me. No penny pinching, I came on a mission just to get to the top. Claim my position, I'm number one with no invitation. One-on-one with no imitation. Never know any limitations. You ain't the real, you a simulation. We at the pinnacle, we not identical. I'm trying to rap on the mic like a tentacle. Don't do subliminal, we not no criminal. Body is pure, don't mess with chemicals, nah. This is as pure as it get. I'm about to shine with the glitz. This is a confirmation, no conversation. We the brightest stars in the constellation, that's it. We set the bar high. On top, cause we so fly. Name in the bright lights. Looking like a star shine.
Welcome back. You just had a behind-the-scenes look at our football video shoot that took place just before fall camp started.
Such a great concept, too. And Christopher, earlier we saw Coach Saban having fun with the freshmen out on the lake, but do you know what his favorite day of the year is? It's actually the annual Knicks Kids Luncheon. This year, the Knicks Kids Foundation donated over $500,000 to local charities and nonprofit organizations.
Maggie, to go along with this year's $500,000 donation, Coach Saban's foundation has given back $8 million over the last 12 years plus. Let's take a look back at the Knicks Kids Foundation Luncheon with Miss Terry and Coach Saban. It's brought to you by BBVA.
This is one of my favorite days of the year. It's fun to see all the kids here, fun to see our players that are here, that are sort of supporting the kids and helping the kids and signing autographs, and all of the Knicks Kids supporters that are here. It's always great to see them, and we really appreciate what all the people do who support the kids every day of their life and the sacrifices that they make. So it's kind of special to honor them, you know, today as well. This is something we really look forward to and enjoy, and obviously Miss Terry does a tremendous amount of work in this regard to help all these folks, and I certainly appreciate all that she does to make this work for us.
It's always nice to see Coach Saban smile. And did you see that someone gave him a box of his favorite snack cakes, oatmeal cream pies? And you know he loved that heading into camp.
Yes, I know he did. I hear he eats a couple of those every day. I've even seen the jar of Little Debbie's in his office, so I'm sure he'll add those to that jar.
I'm sure he will. A lot of familiar faces are returning this season, but there are quite a few new faces on the coaching staff. Coach Saban has 7 new additions to this year's coaching staff and 2 new coordinators.
Pete Golding was on the staff last season as the co-defensive coordinator and inside linebackers coach. He was promoted to defensive coordinator this season, and Steve Sarkisian returns after 2 seasons as the offensive coordinator with the Atlanta Falcons. Sarkisian will lead the Tide's the Tide's offense this season.
He'll lead him to big things. Let's take a listen as Coach Saban and the 2 coordinators met with media on Fan Day just after the beginning of fall camp.
It's great to be back at Alabama, obviously. You know, I think back to a couple years ago, headed to Atlanta, and that was obviously a really tough decision, but I felt like it was an opportunity at that time I couldn't turn down. And when this opportunity came back up from Coach Saban to come back here to Alabama, it was one that, you know, I jumped on. And I was fortunate enough to have this opportunity present itself, and just looking forward to it. Looking forward to working with Coach Saban again. He's a great mentor of mine, somebody you obviously can learn a great deal from. The players, our entire coaching staff. So excited about the opportunity. It's good to get going again.
Go! Go! All right, now look. Y'all are doing a good job. Triple extension coming out my hips.
Obviously, I'm excited about a new role here this year. I think I was very fortunate early in my career to be able to call some defense and be around some good guys. Obviously, being under Coach Saban has been an icon for me my entire coaching career. I've always studied the University of Alabama and studied Coach Saban, not only from a leadership standpoint, but obviously very much from an X and O standpoint. So it's been awesome for me to be under him and to learn from him. And then the staff, I feel like he's assembled to help us get back to where it should be. Those guys are great football coaches, but I think they're better men. And I think it's awesome being in the room with them, the knowledge they have, the leadership they have, the experience they have. I think they bring a lot to the table. So collectively, I like where we're at going into fall camp.
Great to hear from those coordinators. And if you're part of the Crimson Tide, you have to know the fight song, right? The band visited the Tide after practice. Will go all access as the freshmen learned the fight song.
At that national championship, I was right in the zone. I was right there. And I was like, Nick got to pull something out of his hat.
And you don't want to miss this. Coach Saban has had several well-known speakers address the team this fall. We'll go behind the scenes for an inside look coming up next.
Hey, man, we back. Let's see what you got. Whoa, baby.
And it's Steve lowers the shoulder and scores. 6, Tide rolling. I'm running plays. Catch me by Devontae Smith. Clinical start for the Crimson Tide. Yeah, I'm really on my grizzly every day. I'm running plays. I'm running plays.
Touch it back to the middle. Watch out. See ya.
Every day. Yeah, I'm really on my grind.
If that doesn't get you ready for football season, I don't know what will. I've got the chills. I'm ready to go.
Yes, Maggie, we're counting down the days, just about a week away from the season opener against Duke in Atlanta.
And you know, Christopher, to get ready for the season, everyone has to know Yeah Alabama, also known as the fight song.
Everyone has to know it because Coach Saban leads the team in singing the fight song in the locker room after every victory.
The $1 Million Band recently visited the team after practice to help them all learn. Let's go all access with the Tide and the $1 Million Band.
When we win a game here, we count the number of points that we scored, and everybody on the team learns and sings the fight song. It's a tradition. It's been going on here for a long, long time. So the band's going to teach you how to sing the fight song, and when we win the game, I expect everybody to sing the fight song. Thank you so much. Appreciate you all for doing this. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Coach.
And I have a feeling they will be singing that a lot this year. In the past, Coach Saban has brought in some big names when it comes to fall camp speakers. And this year, I think it might be the best group.
It may be. Jay Billis, Kirk Herbstreit, Stephen A. Smith, and Mike Tyson are just a few of the speakers that Coach Saban brought in to speak to the team this year. Along with speaking to the team, they visited with some of the players inside the barbershop.
Let's go all access for a sneak peek of Bama Cuts episode with ESPN's Stephen A. Smith. It's brought to you by Payless Drugs.
And I was at that national championship game. I was right in the zone. I was right there. And I was like, Nick got to pull something out of his hat. And they got to do something. And then the next thing you know, this brother comes in. And I'm like, yeah. I said, oh, it's on now. And I didn't even know because I had never really seen you. So I really didn't know. But what I was saying is I knew the change, the shift. If he had anything, you got them because they didn't anticipate this.
Yeah.
But you got to be willing to pull that trigger, you know, and you just got to be willing to do it. And I didn't know that Nick Saban would do that. I didn't know that. I mean, you pulling a quarterback in the middle of the national championship game for a dude. I'm like, what? And I couldn't believe it. But I said, oh, it's on now. But you need to do something like that from time to time.
That's just a short tease of what Stephen A. Smith said. If you've ever watched Stephen A. on ESPN, you know he has a lot to say. You can watch the entire episode on Alabama Football's Vimeo channel at vimeo.com/BamaFootball.
There's a lot of great content on that page. Mike Tyson and the rest of the fall camp speakers will be released throughout the season. So you're going to want to bookmark that, check back, and watch some great speakers.
That's right. Stay with us. We'll have more Tide TV this week coming up next.
Welcome back. We hope you've enjoyed our preseason edition of Tide TV this week.
But before we go, let's take a look at next week's schedule for the Crimson Tide. What's next is brought to you by Renaissance Bank.
Soccer hits the road for the first time this season as the Tide heads to Houston to take on Rice next Thursday. And volleyball begins their regular season as the Tide will compete in the UB Invitational in Buffalo, New York on Friday and Saturday.
Cross country begins their season in Memphis on Saturday in the Brooks-Memphis Twilight. And football opens the season next Saturday in Atlanta against Duke in the Chick-fil-A Kickoff Classic. Kickoff time is set for 2:30 Central. The game will be broadcast on ABC.
And soccer wraps up the weekend with another matchup in Texas. The women will take on Lamar and Beaumont on Sunday at 1 p.m. And I can't believe football season is almost here. Thank you for watching another episode of Tide TV this week.
See you next week, everybody. Roll Tide.